Hello and welcome to Pulsecast, the podcast exploring the key trends in media technology. Today we will talk about business priorities in media with David Walker, who is Vice President Pre-Sales at Appear. Thanks so much, David, for being with us today.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
So, should we start by you giving us a little bit more detail about you and your background?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've started in the broadcast industry in 2011, 2012 with, as it was at the time, Harris, which is now Imagine. Quite lucky, started off doing baseband automation, so controlling all of the image overlays, the video servers and VTRs back in the, and Betamax and stuff back in the day for TV stations. Stayed there for a number of years. Moved on to Thomson, where I fell in love with video compression and head-end multiplexing, statistical multiplexing and things. Then I jumped ship over to Elemental. So joined Elemental back in 2015. I spent a total there for about almost 6 years in doing three different roles at Elemental, AWS Elemental. Really, really interesting role to go through the on-prem to cloud migrations they were doing there and the various changes that went along there. Then moved on to work for Amagi, where I was ran the solutions engineering team for EMEA there, so cloud playout, software as a service, and then I joined Appear about 8 months ago to help with the expansion in the EMEA region and some changes they were making. So yeah, joined Appear about 8-9 months ago to run the team. Very interesting role.
Yeah, and what does the role at Appear entail?
So the solutions engineering team at Appear, we work very closely with our customers, existing customers and new customers. So we talk to, I would like to say that, like, with our main customers, they trust us, they come to us, they ask us questions, as well as, so we don't just sell and run, we kind of get involved, help them with expansion of the systems, help them with if they have any problems, they want to add or change. But a lot of the work we're doing, we're speaking to new customers in different areas, whether it be in live production, REMI, distribution, contribution. We basically help them with our experience in the Appear product portfolio, and we help architect or help them make a solution that means that they can achieve what they want to do. So I'm quite lucky. I've got a team of 4 at the moment. The team's going to be growing over the year, but yeah, it's we're very lucky to have a very good product line that kind of is quite varied but keeps us very busy. So yeah.
That's great. Thanks, David. And given your role, that's why I wanted to ask you about it.
Yeah.
You have a front row seat in understanding how the needs of your customers are changing over time. And now,
Yes.
it's a time of change in the media and entertainment industry, particularly in this period with new technologies and new trends.
Yeah.
Can you describe the markets you operate in, perhaps? And how priorities are changing in these markets?
Yes. So a lot of the markets, it's like we like to kind of separate the market into kind of 3 key areas. So acquisition, processing, consumption. So processing or acquisitions, you're kind of easiest way to do it, if we start with processing content owner, rights holders, production companies in there, and they tend to have you're talking your cameras, your OB trucks, etc. The acquisition, you're into your telcos and broadcasters, and then consumption is go into, so head end operators, etc. in those spaces there where you're moving the video signals to almost to the direct consumer market. So we work very well in the acquisition and processing space. So we deal with a lot of the customers doing, say, live production feeds coming out of stadiums. We help broadcasters and telcos move signals around with the contents rights and holders. We might, for example, help them with SRT deliveries to broadcasters in different areas in the world.
Thanks, David. In terms of their priorities, how do you think they are changing?
So the priorities
are
changing. Priorities are changing very much. So there's definitely a move away from satellite use of satellites. We're seeing a lot of customers migrate from the satellite spaces into primary contribution. So we're talking ZigZag, Wrist, SRT, and I think one thing that's also kind of playing into this as well is costing of making these changes, because they're and sustainability as well. It's like, how do they do it? How do they get the most for their money, and how do they do it? And you're seeing definitely a lot of tiering of the events, and particularly with the move to predominantly sort of SRT and ZigZag. Wrist is out there. A lot of people are talking about Wrist. Not a huge amount of people are using it yet, but the predominant forces are SRT and ZigZag. And then you look at the tier levels point, is the customer going to do, or is the stadium using two public fibers? Are they using dark fiber? Are they using a Tata style solution? Are they using an AWS direct connect style solution? And then obviously obviously these become expensive, very expensive to do. So depending, for a Champions League final, for Olympics, for tier one sports events, these make perfect sense. If you're getting down to championship level football or lower, it's like, you still want redundancy, but do you want to go for a one fiber and then use SRT over the public internet? So a lot of the changes we're seeing here as well are, one, how they distribute the signals, obviously how they acquire the signals. So big change, still depending on the market, the change from SDI to 2110, and that comes with its own challenges in there. Are you running a TR07 environment? Are you running a TR08 environment? The challenges you've got there, and obviously with those, with SDI change to 2110 and then moving over to fibers, again, the cost in there is the size of the data throughput. Are you doing more at the stadium, or are you processing in the cloud? Are you moving it back to your data center? There's a lot of change. People are adopting different models in the way that they do this. So it really, a lot of the customers we're working with, it depends on the tier level of the event. So top tier one, no offense, no expense spared. When you get down lower, you've got to count your pennies. You've got to be cost effective. You've got to make sure that you're getting the right point for that. But yeah, there's some of the big changes we're seeing. Another one we're seeing as well is we're seeing a lot more, as I said, with the 2110 migration. We're seeing a lot more people who traditionally might have used J2K, so JPEG 2000. We're seeing them slowly move over to JPEG XS. JPEG XS very much is becoming the dominant force in some of the spaces we work in, particularly on there. But yeah, it's there's definitely a lot of changes and a lot of things. And then, is it an event? Is it a 24/7 channel? And we're kind of, there's the traditional workflow, which is from the stadium straight to your data center. There's a hybrid workflow where you might send some of the signals to your data center back to your studio, for example, and then upload it into the cloud. There's other ones where you're running it through the cloud, and then there's again, network cost implications. So generally there's a lot of change, and there's still a lot of people deciding what is the best way to do it and what is the most cost-effective way to do it.
Yeah, it's very interesting because the industry is focused on cost-effective solutions, particularly in this period because of financial pressure in the industry. But at the same time, live remains, the stronghold of the industry. One of the most important sector, arguably, right?
Yes, hugely. The last year being the summer of sports, or year of sports, however you wanted to call how last year was. Last year was it was really, really great year to be kind of working in the industry with all the sort of concurrent events going on, the Olympics, the football, the other stuff going on. And you got to see people trying out different things, working different ways. We got to find out, as you said, cost effectiveness, density now is very, very important to some of these guys. We talk about cost savings, but we also talk about sustainability. Customers want density, because if they're sending equipment to on a plane, on a lorry or whatever, they're paying a large cost per kilo to ship that equipment. And if they can get higher density equipment, which means they're doing more in less, they're going to save themselves money in shipping. They're going to save themselves on their carbon footprint because they're putting less on a plane or less on a lorry. So that's what we're seeing a lot from customers as well. They're being very cautious about what they're sending. They'd rather send less to site. Obviously, if there's an OB truck, fine, there's an OB truck going on there. But if they're sending fly packs, they're sending flight cases, they're being very, very cautious about what it costs them to move it and what the sustainability footprint is they're making on those.
Thanks, David. And are these priorities applicable to all the markets you talked about, or are there any differences between the three markets you operate in?
Well, so the sort of the content rights owners, they will own the rights to it, and they will then have somebody. They'll either do their own. They'll have their own production. If you think about some of the tier one sports providers, otherwise they'll bring in a production company who'll then put cameras and stuff in there. So it depends on it. But as I said, it really depends on the tier of the sport and event you do. So some customers we work with, they go right from having 20 plus cameras at a stadium. You go down a tier or two in the event, they might have one. You go down to an even lower, it'll be a PTZ camera that's lit, and it'll be produced on a laptop and then sent off as an SR stream somewhere. So some people are less worried about it and some people are more concerned about it. I think when you get into the big production companies and the big sports that have multiple events during the year, that's where, if they're moving multiple vehicles around or moving multiple equipment around for multi-events, that's when it becomes very important. But it's something we should all kind of strive to kind of do, because it's sustainability is a very big thing at the moment. So, and it's very important.
And when it comes to sustainability, people often talk about a trade-off between sustainability and cost. How do you see that kind of relationship in this area in particular?
So I agree, there is sometimes a cost trade-off between sustainability and the cost effectiveness. But if you look at sort of some of the ways that people work with it, so sustainability could be if you're saving yourself 40 kilos for every time you're flying a plane, and if you're making 30 trips a year, that's a lot of money, and being weight saved on that, and that will that may pay for itself already in there. But you're talking with it as well, the cost point of sustainability is power consumption, weight, how they're doing, that's the points in there. So I agree, there is a point where you look at it, and then not everyone's got access to green energy, not everyone's got the hydroelectric areas and stuff. They can say, oh yeah, I'm green because I'm using hydroelectric, for example. I agree there are, but it is little things you can do to kind of work out and kind of save a little bit here and there.
Exactly. This is what I thought from what you said earlier, in terms of sustainability that makes economic sense as well, because I'm hearing that from customers too, that they're looking more at solutions that are sustainable but also make economic sense. That makes sense.
Exactly. You've got to realize that if it's costing you more to be super sustainable, is that basically, can you maintain that might not be maintainable. So
And David, when it comes to this year, are you predicting any changes in the priorities of your customers? What do you think they will most focus on? These areas or other areas you're expecting?
There's some areas we're seeing in different spaces. So we're seeing, as I said, we're still seeing more of the migration out off the satellite platforms. We're predicting more of that. Definitely, we're seeing a lot of customers looking at how they set their distribution up, how they're working. Are they using are they working in the cloud? Are they working on-prem? There's a point there where people have maybe expanded into the cloud, realized that for event-based stuff, it's fantastic. It's really, really good. If you're going in for a 24/7, is there a trade-off there, or is it better to go hybrid? So we're still finding some points in there. I think with sports events as well, we've obviously got Milan coming up. We've got the 2 FIFA tournaments coming up. There's a lot of work going on in the background around those. We're still seeing some 2110 migrations. So people that have had traditional SDI setups for taking equipment abroad, are they moving that down to, they're looking at moving that into, for example, 2110, and then doing TRS7 outputs to send it via networks into, for example, the cloud or back to on-prem, or moving it around for remote production. I think it's an interesting one. There's still a lot of talk about AI. We're seeing a lot of, one thing that seems to be big with our customers, particularly in the sports area this year, is not something we do personally at Appear, but we're seeing a lot of things around the perimeter advert, a lot of customers asking around, can we take an additional feed for perimeter advertisement customization? So, for example, you're watching a football match, watching La Liga, for example, in another country, and they have another beer sponsor, for example, in Netherlands, say at Heineken, for example, and they just replace the Estrella advertising hoardings with Heineken advertising hoardings during the game when they're broadcasting it in Holland, as an example. And that will give broadcasters extra advertising revenue. It gives them additional revenue streams. It also, if you go into countries where there's restrictions on certain kinds of advertising, you can use the same technology to blank that out. We're also seeing, at one point, they're also seeing a lot of the VAR, video assistant referee stuff, and the assistant referee technologies coming in. There's a lot more people starting to use it in different sports, and that's again costs, latency, and general fit. So there's generally what they need from like the camera manufacturers, encoder manufacturers, is basically high quality, low latency streams that are that they can use for this VAR, that can be fed into an AI system for assisted offside. They can be fed into a system for tracking people. So a lot of the same systems used for VAR are also used for stats monitoring. How far did this person run? How far did that person run? So a lot of it, we're seeing kind of a lot of reutilization of the streams, and whether that needs to be a full JPEG XS stream, or it could be an HEV3 stream with low latency being used for a specific function. We're kind of seeing some of that in there, but I definitely predict more of the same, but definitely more innovation around improving advertising, improving markets, and a usage of additional stuff.
Thanks, David. Interesting. Particularly, the use of AI in such a specific sphere. I mean, we heard about AI being used more to squeeze more revenues out of everything in terms of monetization, but this is a very specific use case, which is an interesting one.
It's a super interesting use case, because if you think about, if you take some of the tier one, the English Premier League, the Bundesliga, La Liga, for example, they're global brands. They're massive global brands, and it's almost going back to the point of what we call, when we were talking about dynamic or regionalized ad insertion. It's like, let's just instead of doing the ads on the ad breaks, why don't we just replace the advertising on the stream while you're watching it in a different country? It's it's a logical kind of step, but also it's very interesting.
Yeah. Thanks, David. Let's talk about Appear as well. How is Appear adapting to these changing priorities of your customers? And what do you have in plan for this year, for the shows this year? There are a lot of shows, as every year there are a lot of shows in the industry. So what are you planning?
There are a lot of shows this year. So we're predominantly focusing on our X products, which is our flagship modular solution. We are NAB. We are releasing a new product, so it's a twist on the X platform. So come and see us. It's very, very different, but it's going to be. It helps us address different areas of the market. We're also working on because of we're very, very strong in the acquisition. We're good on the processing. We're working very well on enhancing the processing. So we're launching some virtualized solutions that will be a modular virtualized solution that can be run in the cloud or on-prem for various live production or primary contribution workflow tools. We're also bringing out some various different things around some new hardware, some new modular cards for our system. But the main things I would say is we've got a new member of the X family coming, and we are also working, as I said, on our virtualized products. So it's an very interesting time to be up here. There's a lot of things going on, so it's IBC is going to be NAB is going to be very busy for us, and I think it'll be very similar at IBC.
Thanks, David. We talked about a little bit about this year. Let's talk about the longer term future as well.
Yeah.
You know, as a final question, I wanted to ask you, what do you see as the biggest opportunity and challenge for the media technology sector in the next 5 years? I know it's difficult, but what do you see?
The challenge in the next 5 years is probably going to be oh, that's a tough one because overall in the industry, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of challenging. I see in the live production, so the live sports, the live event things, I see more of the same of like migration to IP, different technologies, whether it's hybrid in the cloud, camera stuff. I think well, for mainly UHD seems to be where everyone's talking about 8K and stuff like that. UHD with the current technologies we've got for broadcast, UHD seems to be the highest we're going, and then we may stay that for a little while. I don't know, but I don't see any more massive codec battles going on for a while. There's talk of obviously VVC has come out, not really been massively adopted. HEVC's there, still not very popular, but still not anywhere near AVC on the side there because of various reasons behind that around devices, around licensing, around other points there. But I think a lot of it is going to be the move away from, are we doing like traditional linear television? How do we, because that's the fundamentals you think about. It's like, if you're watching a TV channel, look at the younger generations. They're very much lean to television. They're into Twitch, they're into other things like that kind of they're lean forward. They're not the lean back television. They don't want to wait a week to watch the next episode of a series. They would rather not watch something else, wait a couple of weeks and binge watch it. So the question is where are we going with that? Because live TV is predominantly only going to end up being live sports. I feel live sports and news, but it's kind of similar things. There's still and the other thing as well for me is satellite. Do we continue using satellite? Do we move to IP? Same with DVB terrestrial. It's like, do we still have these over the air ones, or are they chewed up by or is the DVB-T chewed up even more by the mobile phone usage? There's a number of ways. Do we go predominantly IP? You know, as you're seeing it, I don't know if you see it in your market, but in the market I'm in, we're seeing a lot of people who are traditional satellite people starting to move into IP delivery to set-top boxes. So are we seeing the end of DVB-S for a consumer product? Are we also seeing it just a general end of it for moving TV signals around because it's cheaper and more effective to do it over the internet? So there's a lot of different things that we could be. I tried to think holistically, covering the whole kind of point there, because there's a lot going on in the industry, and I thought a little change here can cause a complete domino effect one way or the other. Yeah,
you're right, and I think it's impossible to have the crystal ball. I think, but it's good to talk about the future. I think
it is. The future's great, and I think we'll see. We will definitely see. I think. As I said, that we'll keep the sustainability push will keep going on there. The technology drive will keep going on there. People want more density. They want better costs. They want it to be greener, and they want better quality. So there's always, as you said, there's always a trade point in all of these things between either efficiency, sustainability and cost, and picture quality versus latency, picture quality. And it's just interesting. It'll be very interesting to see where the market settles. But I think live production's here for a very long time, and I think it's just getting better.
Yeah. As you said, there's in many films there's often a tension between two opposite things, and then we end up in a little bit in the middle.
Yes, we do.
But thanks, David, for being with us today.
No problem.
It was very good.